So I'm going to read 1 Peter 5 through 7 real quick here. Likewise, ye younger, submit yourselves unto the elder. Yea, all of you, be subject one to another, and be clothed with humility. For God resisteth the proud, and giveth grace to the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty power of God, that he may exalt you in due time, casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. Now, some of you may have been through, example of maybe experience, maybe where church harmony or organization morale, or maybe you're on a team where that harmony and the unity disappeared. Maybe it was because of a leader not being humble, or maybe followers or like a team member not humbling themselves. I know a personal example for me. Whenever I was in college, I worked for the athletics department, and of course, you got lots of athletes can be kind of self-centered. But one that comes to mind particularly was the lacrosse team. They kind of have big egos, but we were setting up for the game, and they're practicing. There's this guy out there. He's just doing all kinds of crazy stuff. He's trying to push around the opposing team and warm-ups and everything, and we're just like, I'm guessing that's a freshman. And so the team that they were playing against was a D1 team. We were playing to probably lose by at least 20 points. It's going to be a blowout. Anyhow, the player, he kept acting all cocky on the sidelines, thinking he was going to get in. Other players would mess up. They'd come on the sidelines. He'd just trash them out. Finally, we were losing pretty badly, and the coach was like, let's put him. He gets out there. He just gets wrecked to the ground. And then he comes there at the sidelines after that. He's like, what are you guys doing? But, that's an example of somebody younger not being humble. Now, there's other examples. There's quite a few players that were from Canada, and they're really down to earth. So there's some freshmen that made a mistake. They come to the sidelines. They would talk to their older teammates and say, hey, what did I do wrong? How can I do better? So speaking of that, it says, likewise, ye younger, submit yourselves unto the elder. So whereas the prior verses addressed the elders, this starts out by being addressed to the younger. And then it says, yea, all of you, be subject one to another. So, it applies to everyone in this sense. Be subject one to another, and be clothed with humility. So it obviously can apply to everyone, but perhaps more so to the young potentially. Humility is demonstrated by submission. It's our ability to cheerfully put away our own fleshly desires for God's. And then all of you, we should strive to serve each other, whether it be the pastor serving and tending to the congregation, or the people serving the pastor, or, even broader to the community. Be clothed with humility. So actually the phrase be clothed, it translates back in that time to a word where slaves were putting on an apron before they served. And of course we see an example of that as mentioned with Jesus before washing the disciples' feet. Some marks of humility would be willingness to perform the lowliest and little service. You could think of going and cleaning toilets in the church, or just doing the things that nobody likes to do. I know I don't like to clean toilets. The willingness to be ignored of men. Sometimes it's not always attractive out there in the world to be a Christian, but we have to be willing to be ignored, and just being truly other-centered instead of self-centered. And then it goes on to say, "For God resisteth the proud and giveth grace to the humble." And of course, that also cross-references, if you have a study Bible, with Proverbs 3:34, "Surely he scorneth the scorners, but he giveth grace unto the lowly." If we want to live in God's grace, we have to lay aside our pride and be humble, not to him, but also to one another. Pride can often keep young people from listening to their elders. Sometimes like, oh, what they're saying is outdated, they're old, they don't know what they're talking about. And then, of course, also pride can keep elders from trying to understand young people. I think one thing is, we often see young kids as the church in waiting, but really they can be the church today if elders would mentor them, and of course, younger people being willing to listen to the elders. Verse 6, "Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time." Sometimes we worry about our positions, our status, hoping for recognition in the world. But we're reminded in this verse that God's recognition is the only thing that should truly matter. He's able and willing to bless us in his time, but first we have to be humble. We have to humble ourselves, trust in his plan, and obey. Verse 7, "Casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you." That's such a peaceful verse once you come to that point of humility. Holding your worries, your stress, struggles is a pretty proud thing to do when God has promised that he'll take care of it. And really, if we would just follow what verse 6 says of humbling ourselves under God's hand, we would have fewer cares that we'd have to cast on him. Worries about, they all cease under the command to humble ourselves. There's an illustration, if you will. Imagine a man, he comes to move your furniture, but he comes to move your furniture and he shows up, he's carrying a heavy and huge bag of his own on his own back. And then he complains that he finds it difficult to do the job of moving your furniture. So, in that case, wouldn't you suggest that he would find it easier if he laid his own burdens down, laid his bag down, so that he could carry yours? So in this same way, we cannot do God's work when we are weighted down by our own burdens and worries. So we have to cast them upon him, and then we can take up his work. And all of this is possible when we seek God, humble ourselves, and obey.